Process before repair. The Emerson Register, the Great Knob Precedent, Ramey Cosmology, and the Kane-Moore-Uary Chronology. A scholarly response from Barrow's research, August 2026. How this reply is held. Thomas Emerson's initial reply was supplied on July 22, 2026, and registered as correspondence A0-03. His authorized follow-up produced version 6.96 of the Consolidated Report, the Emerson Expert Response Edition, carried through the front matter, the Executive Summary, Section 2.11, Chapter 11, Appendix T, and Appendix A0. 1. Governance fact frames everything that follows. Emerson reviewed the passage in which he appeared and expressly directed that an earlier motive-oriented quotation be replaced with wording of his own choosing. That replacement is recorded in the changelog. He is therefore quoted here in words he authorized on a subject he administered from a process he built. That is an unusually clean evidentiary position for correspondence of this kind, and it is the reason this film can be made at all. Part 1. The Great Knob. 1984. An inherited failure. The slope failures at Monks Mound began in 1984, before the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency existed. A moderate failure on the east was followed by a massive failure on the west, and by pressure for immediate repair. When the Historic Preservation Agency was created in July of 1985 and assumed responsibility for the state historic sites, Emerson inherited the ongoing slump as agency chief archaeologist. He describes its scale as exceeding any previously known historic slump at the monument. He judged it neither a quick fix nor a problem manageable within the agency's existing expertise, particularly, he says, because of Cahokia's international significance. And the first decision taken was to delay emergency action until the internal structure of the mound and the causes of the failure were better understood. That decision, to find out before repairing, is the whole of the precedent. 1985. 3 purposes. Emerson used National Park Service contacts to convene a working conference of international specialists and combine them with a broad group of regional and state archaeologists. He identifies 3 linked purposes for that conference. First, to bring experts together to form a treatment plan. Second, to secure the widest practical buy-in from the relevant stakeholders. And third, to impress upon agency leadership Cahokia's national and international significance, so that monetary, legal, and logistical support would follow. Note what the third purpose concedes. Expertise alone does not fund a treatment plan. Emerson organized the conference partly as an argument addressed upward to his own agency's leadership about why this landform warranted the money. And note what was not in dispute: stabilization was accepted as necessary. What remained under debate were the values and the methods. What was balanced, and what was chosen? 6 values entered the balance, and the report lists them: monumental architecture, the archaeological database, the public interpretive resource, the visual landscape, broad stakeholder buy-in, and the agency's own monetary, legal, and logistical support. The engineering options evaluated included drainage and structural systems, among them invasive deep interventions and construction berms. Those options were on the table and they were assessed. What was selected was passive management, with visual and instrumental monitoring continued. And Emerson is precise about which part of that he considers the achievement. The most important outcome, he says, was the formulation of the passive management strategy and the forestalling of precipitate actions that might have had long-lasting negative impacts. The accomplishment in his account is partly a thing that did not happen. The authorized sentence. For the comparison with 2007, Emerson directed that the report's earlier wording be replaced with the following, which is his own: "It is difficult to understand the 2007 agency's failure to implement collaborative processual procedures which would have sought input from, as well as broadened, the preservation community's understanding of their decision-making process, especially given the international status of the site." That is the whole of it. It is a judgment about procedure, delivered by the person who designed the procedure it is measured against, and phrased by him rather than by anyone characterizing him. What the sentence carries, and what it does not. The report holds Emerson's statement as a process-based expert assessment, and then bounds it in 4 directions. It is not used as documentation of any specific 2007 act. It is not used as proof of intent. It is not a substitute for the plan set, the consultation record, the field direction record, or the closeout record. And the precedent is not a binding rule. The 1984 to 1989 sequence is foundational preservation history and a comparator across statutory succession, not a legal standard that 2007 was obliged to meet. The distinction matters and it protects him as much as it protects the record. Emerson is describing what a collaborative process looked like when he ran one, and observing that he cannot account for its absence later. He is not testifying to what happened in 2007, and the report does not ask him to. Part 2. The published record. Ramey incised, Pocketat and Emerson, 1991. This article treats Cahokian material culture and spatial form as part of an elite-mediated cosmology. Its analysis of Ramey-incised vessels emphasizes quadripartition, rotational symmetry, a marked center, and a layered scheme of upper, this, and underworlds. It cites Kelly's range-site central fourfold pit complexes, often accompanied by a central post, as an architectural expression of that ordering, and identifies four-sided platform mounds and rectangular plazas as earlier material expressions of the same quadripartition. The article therefore documents a Cahokian interpretive framework in which centers, cardinal divisions, posts, fire, and above and below ground facilities could carry cosmological meaning. And then the use control, which is the report's own and is strict. The article does not discuss Feature 1. It does not identify a charnel house at Monks Mound. It does not. Fort, Hedman, and Emerson, 2024. This article re-examines the Kane mortuary complex using radiocarbon AMS dating and isotopic data, and it does two things at once. The confirmation first. It independently confirms that Milner's 1984 synthesis treated an apparent charnel structure as one of Kane's distinctive mortuary traits. That matters for the Monks Mound file, because it establishes charnel structure as a genuine, standing term in American bottom mortuary literature rather than a label imported for the occasion. Now the caution, and it is severe. The article overturns the older assumption that Kane represented a single homogeneous late Mississippian mortuary population. The place was used discontinuously for approximately 1500 years, from as early as 500 BCE into the 14th century of the Common Era, by people of differing diets and differing geographic origins. The consequence for any comparison is stated directly: neither a feature label nor a mortuary complex name can be assumed to represent one time, one population, or one architectural form. The article supplies confirmation and caution. It does not supply a plan-level comparator for Feature 1. What the Emerson Register contributes. 3 distinct contributions, arriving from 3 distinct evidentiary positions. As administrator, he supplies the decision history of the 1984 to 1989 Great Knob response from the person who organized it, delay emergency action, convene the expertise, balance the values openly, select passive management, and keep monitoring. As theorist, with Pocketat, he supplies a documented Cahokian framework in which centers, posts, fire, and cardinal divisions could carry cosmological meaning, bounded, explicitly, so that it cannot be made to identify a feature it never discussed. And as co-author of new work, with Fort and Hedman, he supplies both a confirmation that charnel structure is an established regional term and a 1500-year chronology that forbids treating any mortuary label as one time, one population, or one architectural form. Each contribution arrives with its own limit attached. Several of those limits were supplied by Emerson himself, including the sentence he wrote to replace one that would have said more than he was willing to say. That is what an expert register is for. Not corroboration on demand, but a scholar's own words, held at the weight the scholar assigned them. Process before repair. The Emerson Register. Sources: Emerson and Woods, The Slumping of the Great Knob, in the Adobe 90 Proceedings, Pocketat and Emerson, 1991, Fort, Hedman and Emerson, 2024, and the correspondence of Thomas E. Emerson, registered as A0-03 with his authorized follow-up, July 2026. Carried in the Monks Mound 2007 Stabilization Consolidated Research Report, version 7.10. Vincent Barrows, Barrows Research, August 2026. All quotations are used as authorized. Expert correspondence carries professional opinion weight and does not replace the project record.